Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, three West African Sahel nations ruled by military juntas, signed a security pact promising to come to the aid of each other in case of any rebellion or external aggression. The three countries are struggling to contain militant groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, and have also seen their relations with neighboring countries and international partners strained because of the coups. The latest coup in Niger drove a further wedge between the three and countries of the regional bloc, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, which has threatened to use force to restore constitutional rule in Niger. Mali and Burkina Faso have vowed to come to Niger's aid if it is attacked. Relations between France and the three countries have soured since the coups. Well, we are joined by Achike Chude, African Affairs Analyst. He is joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Achike, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us here on Africa Live. Well, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have signed a security pact on Saturday, promising to come to the aid of each other in case of any rebellion or external aggression. What are your thoughts on the pact, and is it viable?
Yeah, well, they are birds of the same feather. They are all guilty of committing the same crime of forceful takeover of democratic governments. And so, naturally, it will be seen by each side that any attack on one is an attack on the other, because they are all collectively guilty of committing the same crime. So I think it is natural. But it was, this formalization of the pact is something that some of us have already known. They had made it clear long before now that they were going to come to the aid of each other in case of any attack. And so this is just a formalization of what we have already known. And we are going to see how that is going to happen, obviously. The tension surrounding the coup that took place in Niger has obviously gone down. Don't forget that the ECOWAS was threatening hell and brimstone. And a lot of people thought that invasion of Niger by the ECOWAS forces was very, very imminent. But obviously a lot of domestic pressure brought from different parts of the West African sub-region by the citizens, especially the pressure on the Nigerian government, stayed action, ensure that there was a stay of action. And so this has been a moment of cooling off, and the diplomatic activities are taking place. So we don't know exactly how far it is going to go, but I think what is obvious right now is that the military option has been taken off the table for now. And that essentially, I think, as a result of the domestic pressure by the citizens of these countries, who in a way have not been disgusted or have not found the coup abhorrent, with some of them even applauding and welcoming the arrival of the juntas in their country. So that kind of complicated issues for ECOWAS. So you want to invade a country, for instance, where a lot of the citizens are in support of the action of the government that you want to go in to remove. So this has been, the problem, and that's why the diplomatic option has been on the card for some time. So as per this pact, well, like I said, this is just mere formalities. We knew that they were going to consider an attack on anyone as an attack on each other.
All right, Achide, important points that you have made there. Now, Achide, these three countries have not been able to deal with the threat of militants. Do they have the needed resources to do it without external help? How do you see it?
No, I think they find themselves in an impossible, virtually impossible situation. The issue of these insurgents and the terrorist activities in their countries have been on for years now. And they have not, even under the civilian administration, they have not been able to make much mileage. And even when the military took over, ostensibly accusing the government, the civilian governments, of failure to properly confront the insurgency in their countries. We have seen that years after some of them have taken over the civilian administration, they have not been able to make any significant or impactful impact in those countries. And so, and to now do it outside of the help of other international institutions or countries, I think will be virtually impossible. So they need the intervention of foreign bodies, the same way that even the international community would also need for something to be done to stem the tide of terrorism. Nobody benefits from acts of terrorism, especially of the type we have seen in the West African sub-region. And so the sooner, and that means, obviously, when they come to that realization, I think that would also put pressure on them to consider the path of restoration of democracy. Perhaps I think that, at the level of diplomacy, that would be one point when they have realized that they cannot do it without the help of external forces. Then they might be forced to the negotiating table to begin to quicken the timetable for transitioning back to democracy. Unless they want to look at, since some of them have also shown some willingness to work with the Russians and the Wagner Group, which also has its own difficulties and complexities, then they might decide that they will need the help of maybe the Wagner Group to stem the tide. But I don't see how successful that one will be. That action will be in the short run. Seeing that even that France and other international forces who have been active in these countries before the military took over were not exactly able to help them to completely erase insurgency. So it's not going to be an easy thing. They cannot do it on their own. They need international partnerships. It's as simple as that. It can't be done just by themselves alone.
All right, Achike Chude speaking to us live from Lagos, Nigeria, and African Affairs Analyst. Thanks for that.